Right, due to being outed by Tim, aka Mr. Samwise7RPG, over on the YouTube RPG Brigade page on Facebook, I decided to actually put up some roleplay content tonight, just so that people don't have to see me in the first video being all the way through it. So yeah, I decided to do a quick video on what to do if you're stuck for an idea for a game, or you're middle of a campaign and don't know what direction to take, or perhaps even just somebody saying, "Hey, could you run could you run a game this weekend?" and you have no idea what to do. Simple answer: go to your local newsagents or whatever other shop you've got that sells newspapers, buy a copy of your local newspaper, have a read through it and be inspired. Due to my local newspaper always being full of murders, deaths, rape, bad things, more bad things, drug dealers, with the rare occasional article such as school children win an award like popped in there to sort of temporarily brighten things up, I feel like I'm cheating because I've got all the dark, nasty content you could ever imagine needed. Not to say my town's complete hell to live in, but it at times can't be the most pleasant. Isn't the most pleasant. But yeah. So this is with my local newspaper. And as you can see from the front cover, straight off, we have a winner. But yeah, I'm going to probably talk a lot in this video more on fantasy games than for like modern day or, more technically real world based games or sci-fi games, because you could use the articles pretty much straight from this as inspiration. Whereas for fantasy you might need to tweak them more. I suppose for World of Darkness or for more like spooky stuff like Cthulhu, called Cthulhu either, you might want to twist some of the twist some of the articles a little bit. Yeah, I'll just get into all this. Again, early days on the video front, still getting there at talking to a camera. Also, new beat. But yeah, so front page article, 12 more years for drug baron at centre of massive cocaine ring. It's just to add living events into your world. Besides go out and kill stuff or go out and try and survive the night, you need to pop things in to give the world life. In this example, again, focusing on fantasy stuff because you can't take it direct from the newspaper for the most part. 12 more years for drug baron, it's like, okay, so the guy's been arrested and they've just found out he's done more stuff. Let's have a quick read through that. 12 years for his role in cocaine smuggling ring between South America and the UK. Yeah, apparently he's been sentenced for 27 years in total. But using that as an example for a fantasy game, excuse the rambling, there'll be a lot of that. Most fantasy games, you'll have some form of, well, even if you don't in the setting, you can easily add it in. You'll have some form of illegal substance that gets used for more than likely recreational purposes. It could even, to remove it from the drugs thing, you could just change it from being an illegal substance to stolen goods, or something perhaps for religious reasons isn't meant to be in the town, village, insert destination here that you're at. For instance, you're walking around, you want to find out what's been going on in town, either as a party, an individual, depending on whatever style of gameplay you do, you go up to something, they mention, oh, this person was caught, they'd been selling stolen clothes. It could literally just be something that innocent as clothing that was very luxurious looking, and they were exchanging it for a much more reduced price, or for other goods if in a bartering society. And simple tweak, there you go. And if the characters were to look into this more, they'd discover that it isn't just that one individual that's been doing this, it's actually a big thing where there's an organisation of people stealing stuff from one town or several towns outside of the boundaries of where you're at and bringing these goods over, and possibly, while in this area, stealing other goods such as perhaps alcohol, even animals from livestock and stuff, and taking that to the place where they're stealing the other stuff from to up their coffers through what's for them free goods, apart from wasting the time doing the act of stealing and the risk of getting caught. So yeah, simple start example. Let's see what else is in here. I flicked through this earlier a little bit, but I didn't really take anything in. 5 days of fun camps for summer. So in here we have an article saying there are only a few places left to book for a popular 5-day summer fun camps activity for youngsters. So you know, that's kind of cool. No, you could easily enough say it's the school holidays over here, so they set up a lot of things for youth schemes and stuff. But yeah, easily enough you could have it where people are walking into a new area, you know, new civilization, new planet, new town. Again, depends on your setting. If in a fantasy thing, I'll focus on that. You'd be going into perhaps a small village, and there's like a area where there's lots of children playing that's cordoned off from the rest of the village. Maybe it's on the outskirts of the village, maybe it's right in the centre. Again, town, city, village, it's all interchangeable. And yeah, you could tie it into either religion or some cultural event that they have in the place where there's it's a fun camp, but again, fantasy settings, you will have some holidays, but perhaps not quite the equivalent of the summer holidays where it's just school systems closing down so the teachers can have a holiday, and for the tourism industry because it's, again, summer, people go on holiday and stuff. But yeah, maybe have it so it is the 5 days, maybe it's 6 days, 7 days, but you've got like a little cordoned off area where there's lots of children playing, perhaps 1 or 2 adults organising it, or just making sure they don't run too amok, and yeah, tie it to a religious theme to fit with the fact that there's limited places. Maybe there are a number of places where that number is a specific symbolic meaning for the deity of that village, where perhaps only the first 13 children to be at this area at the beginning of the sun, at the beginning of the day when sun's literally just rising, get to go in and play, or I don't know, just have fun outside of the normal rules of things. Or there are like certain toys that are significant somehow historically to the village, whether it's even a better one, it's a training camp. So, medieval for medieval type society, generally speaking, fantasy. You could have it where it's a training camp, and the first 13, oh god, this is like Pokemon, not with the animals, but the first 13 individuals get to this little training camp, and they're allowed in, and they get taught for 5 days by the greatest warriors from this village. Or maybe the greatest warriors of that nation, or county, I don't know what term most games use, district, something applying to an area of lots of cities or a very large one. You get the most famous, well-known, the best trained children to be fighters in this area, and it's only a set number that are allowed in, and they've got to be there at the beginning of the day to get in. So when your heroes, characters, players, wander into this area, you've got an event, something for them to see. It's not just there are shops, there is a market stall, there is a tavern, the stereotypical there is a tavern. I mean, let's face it, most fantasy games, I'm not saying they're not fun, I love playing in the Pathfinder games my friends run, but you know, it's all about the tavern. It's all about either getting drunk, partying, trying not to get killed by people, and getting work. That is like the stereotypical location, that's where people are going, that might be the only place that somebody mentions in a game. Add some flavour to your places, your locations, you know, it's not just go see the king, it's not just this. There are lots of people in these areas with their own lives, their own little cultural things, drop them in. And, like I said, little training thing. Your people wondering, it's like, oh, what's going on there? Perhaps, if you get talking to the people about this thing, they might even ask your characters to help train these children. You know, depending on how renowned they are, or if they appear to be good fighters, or even if the characters volunteer to help if they feel that they've got the ability to teach the next generation some good skills. Or it could just literally, there's this thing going on, carry on, you know. Again, like with the other article, all these things you can drop in to give life to your settings. It's not all just about the big wars and goblin invasions and mysterious cults. If you drop in little bits of what's going on, it gives more life to the setting. As long as you don't focus purely on this stuff. I'm only discussing this in detail in this thing because, damn it, I want to do a video to tell people to do this kind of thing. But yeah, so 12 more years, 5 days camping thing. Guns. Apparently guns have been stolen in a club hammer raid. Rifles and air guns have been taken as thieves smashed their way into secure premises. Raiders have stolen a cache of 6 rifles and 9 air weapons after using sledgehammers to smash their way into a gun club's premises. Yeah, you know, typical World of Darkness stuff, easy enough. A gun club or a gun shop, it's been broken into, people have taken stuff. Is this part of a larger thing? Is this some local hoodlums that had nothing that want to get their first arms to start causing trouble and get themselves out there? You know, where do you want to take it there? Easy enough. Sci-fi game, experimental armaments, experimental power armour, whatever. Like I said, it's easy enough to take these articles and throw them into any setting, focusing on fantasy, because I want to. Could be a case of, okay, blacksmiths been raided. He's had either some of his wrought iron stolen, people have stolen weaponry, mercenaries have come in and taken. It's all about the weapons, you know. It could be a rare mystical weapon of some kind has been stolen from its place of holding, so that, you know, this ups the scale to a more epic level. You know, it's like some magical sword or magical piece of armour has been stolen from the king's armour or the city's guardhouse, you know, something where they'd keep something of relatively good power for a specific individual has been taken. You know, this could just be an overheard conversation, it could be a big thing for you to throw at people, but yeah, go get local paper. Pianist in court on sex charge, you know, that if you're comfortable enough to go down that route with a game, easy enough to take it over. A bard has been arrested for some sort of sexual offence. Let's see what it says here. Oh. If you want to take it into the even more dark level, I don't know why it's more dark when you take it to children. Probably more because of innocence and everything. More innocence, stereotypically speaking. I know plenty of, well, I don't know personally, but I've witnessed plenty of children around here being not quite so innocent. But, you know, if your group is comfortable going down a dark path, somebody has committed, you know, rather nasty sexual offences, people want them finding. Or, again, it's just flavour text, there's some nasty stuff going on in town. it's not a great town, don't go there. Oh, my screen's bloody brought the screensaver up, sorry about that. So every 15 minutes it's probably going to do that. Anger as bizarre allowed in store. So better look at this. A trial licence for a market given to developers to set up 74 stalls in a former supermarket. A council's decision to allow 74 stalls to operate inside a former supermarket has met with opposition from nearby residents and ward councillors. The unnamed developers have been given permission for a market licence to run what is thought to be a fashion and fancy goods market for a trial of 6 months. As permission exists for a retail business there was no need for fresh planning permission to be granted, but people in the area are protesting at the prospect of the bazaar with so many stalls and only 37 parking spaces on site. Yeah, that's not going to be fun. So basically a lot of people are saying there's a lot of market stalls going in this one area, there isn't enough space to accommodate all the people that will go for custom there. That could be very interesting, pretty much as is in a fantasy game. If you've got a small village and there is a large number of merchants passing through that set up stalls, and it's something where they've sent some people ahead to say that, oh, there's all these famous merchants coming through with all these expensive goods that they'll be selling at a reduced price. You know, so they've got the runners, I'll call them the runners, the people that go ahead of the actual caravan. And, you know, this news is spread to this little village and all the surrounding villages in the area. Which means some people in that village might be talking to their mayor or whoever's the head of the area to say, look, we don't want them stopping here, we don't have room for all these other people coming in. If other people come in, it could increase theft, it could bring in a lot of bad people, it could bring in a lot of people that want to sell other stuff as well, and it detracts from their local business perhaps. Especially if it's a typical rural area, they don't have any high quality goods. They're not likely to sell much apart from perhaps food and lodgings. So, I suppose blacksmiths for the horses or whatever other creatures are pulling the caravan along, if creatures at all, if it's being dragged along by mystical energies. But, yeah, what would be the economical effect of a very large caravan of like 74 markets, 74 merchants with their own stalls dropping into a small village of perhaps 100 people where all the neighbouring areas have been told that this is going to happen and it's a thing, it's an event. Perhaps they might get you to try and move them along. Perhaps you're going there because you've heard of this market, you know, this huge caravan of merchants, and you're going there to either try and steal goods, buy goods, or see if you can trade something you've got with them for you know, profit in your own way. Appeals to witnesses of assault. There could be people walking around these cities, villages, whatever, asking, you know, that could go up to the heroes and say, oh, did you witness this attack that happened last night or something? And if you've just turned up there, of course you haven't, but it could be something that the characters get involved in looking into. Another thing to do with hunting down somebody. Police hunt driver after a horror crash. Yeah, collisions in most fantasy games aren't really going to be that bad, I don't think, but if somebody was trampled to death by a stampede, or, you know, somebody making a quick getaway on a horse, that'd convert over. Again, in World of Darkness stuff, police hunt driver after a horror crash. Woman is treated for serious head injuries after a collision leaves them fighting for their life. Is this woman human? Is she kindred? Is she werewolf? You know, is this going to lead in itself to an interesting theme, or a ghoul even? Somebody who's more resilient to stuff, where to begin with they're really injured, but when they regain consciousness, or when the blood gives them an ability to heal stuff back, how is that going to look in hospital when the person that came in there with broken ribs, broken arm, broken leg, damage to the skull, sort of starts to get up out of bed and is just asking to go home. You know, if you're playing like a mortal character that possibly is a person working in that hospital, how do you react to somebody getting out of bed and just calmly walking towards you as though nothing's wrong with them? Again, since they're hunting the driver, what was the driver doing? Was it simply an accidental hit and run? Is this actually somebody escaping something? And if this person's found, will they have a really horrific story to tell? You could even use it as a backstory of a character. They were either trying to escape somebody and ended up hitting somebody, or some great big monstrous creature jumps out in front of them at the road, and rather than stop, they accelerate and go straight on at it. And obviously, when injured, they revert to the form of a more mortal human appearance. So is this person being hunted down now by whatever this creature is? Family plea over stolen snapshots. As I said, my local newspaper is full of lovely positive stories. A handbag containing treasured family photos was snatched from an 80-year-old great-grandmother. The bag, which also contained about £400 in cash and other items, was stolen from, I'm going to leave names and places out, as she stopped at a supermarket with two of her daughters. Among the photos taken was one in a keyring of her late husband, Gary. Names. Somebody who died from cancer 20 years ago. The family of an Italian-born person who lives quite locally are offering reward for the return of the pictures. So, you know, a character might come across this handbag in an alleyway, or perhaps sees some pictures on the floor and picks them up, and they've got names and an address on the back. So, quite simply, they could follow these things and get them back to this individual. Perhaps they read an article in a newspaper like this, so they contact the police about it. Maybe some of these photographs have something odd about them, perhaps. You know, maybe they look from very different time periods and one of the individuals in them looks exactly the same. As though they're the same person, and some of these are very old wartime photos and some of them are more recent. You know, that's a very simple little, you know, throwing in something that's a bit out of the normal in there, that doesn't even need to have anything to do with anything apart from setting the fact that whatever setting you're in isn't quite right. If, again, just to do with the whole fantasy thing, if in a fantasy thing somebody's had a purse stolen that's got some sort of family heirlooms in it that are important, they could be perhaps magical artefacts, expensive gifts from a stranger into the family from generations ago, something gifted particularly to this person by like a long dead lover, and they're just wanting them back for the simple reason that it's something to do with their relationship to this individual. It doesn't have to be a quest or some strange great adventure. It can literally be just use this to add flavour when people ask, well, what's happening? You know, different people will know different things about what's happening in their area, because, again, typical fantasy game, you probably don't have a newspaper. You may have some sort of local notice board outside of whatever head of law enforcement or mayoral sort of position that the area has. Perhaps has like a note board out front with a couple of these articles on, you know, so people go there to see what's happening, or it could just be all word of mouth. Released teenagers reoffend more often. In a fantasy setting, you could easily have an area that's got a very large, over-proportionate number of young offenders, and apparently it's saying here that young offenders that are released from being caught are quickly returning to a life of crime after leaving custody. I'm presuming this is more of an increase, statistically speaking, that a few years ago, perhaps people who were released stayed out for several months, maybe several years before recommitting or getting caught. And now it's becoming like less months or less than a year before they get caught, which either means they're getting sloppier or, you know, they are committing more readily after the event that they were originally caught for. In any game, that could easily enough be adjusted almost to the the name's evading me. Oliver, the play Oliver, where you've got somebody who's using children to commit robberies for them as part of an organised crime ring. Could be supernatural, could be a vampire or a ghoul using children to steal stuff. The children themselves could be ghouls, and it's how they... this is going a bit dark, I'll admit, but you know, it could be children from the age of like 8 to 13 perhaps. They are all ghouled to a vampire who uses them as a, you know, ready supply for blood, and is, you know, basically making them blood-hungry junkies addicted to their vitae, and in order for them to get his gift, his drug to them, they have to steal for him, and if they don't meet a certain requirement, then perhaps they are removed from service. Yeah, it's like as soon as these people get caught stealing, as soon as they're released, they want their fix. They're going to go straight back out into this. It could be just for normal mundane drugs. It could be, like I said, the vampire angle. In a fantasy game, again, it could just be a case of you steal stuff or we don't look after you, in the sense of some, not ringmaster, but you know, whoever's in charge of the operation refuses to feed these children and leaves them as beggars. If they steal for him, he may beat them, do other nasty stuff to them, or... Like I said, you don't have to go quite down this level of darkness if it's a bit uncomfortable for you, but the whole thing is you just children, the whole reason they're getting caught stealing, you know, really quickly after getting released is because they really want to stay in good stead with whoever they're working for, or they really need the thing that's keeping them perky, happy. They just need this thing, and the only way of getting it is stealing and giving these stolen goods to whoever it is that they are working for. License. Teenager stabbed for protecting her father? Lovely. Honest, my town is not as bad as I'm making it out. It has a lot of good things. Oh god, jury guilty of a post on paedophilia. Oh no, post on paedophile. Right, so somebody who's basically been in a juror of a child molestation case has posted a threat on Facebook to the account of this individual who's likely very guilty if they're doing this, on a child molestation case. It says paedophilia, so I can't say molestation, it might be imagery only or something, but either way around, yeah, it's a case of in-game you've got somebody who's convicted of a really nasty crime, and perhaps the whole reason this event happened is that the jury was going to let them go with this. Perhaps the jury's been bribed, and one of these members has been kicked off of this jury with, you know, great knowledge to the local public. They've been booted out of this thing for going against, you know, the laws of being on a jury. You know, nothing is meant to leave the courtroom, but as far as this person's concerned, justice hasn't been met. They're going to out this person to everybody they can find so that people will vigilante, you know, go and get this guy because he needs it before he gets taken into prison, which could be a safe place for them. Perhaps this individual that's been on trial is royalty or somebody from a respected family. Perhaps it's not, as it say in the paper, that you could turn it into less of a dark theme by just being murder, or, you know, potential murder where they were plotting to take out somebody, they got caught and they were bribing the jury. Again, this is to try and focus it more on a fantasy game. They were bribing people that had witnessed them, or bribing people to just agree that they were innocent when they might be innocent, they might not. One of the people, obviously as part of this, thinks that this person is very guilty, and so they are outing this individual's crimes. Sorry, the password thing's gone on again. And they themselves have gotten into trouble for trying to do justice as they see fit. A town hit by flash floods. A small market town near to where I live apparently was caught with 1.5 feet of water a couple of days ago. We had really heavy rain locally. It was beautiful. I loved it because it's been really hot over here recently. But yeah, town hit by flash floods. Perhaps overhearing this, that's a direction for the characters to go. It's like, save the local village. Maybe this event isn't actually a natural event. Perhaps it's some sort of curse or spell that's being cast upon these locals for going against, whether they be good or bad, going against the rulings of a certain higher up individual. Ooh. Alright, let's see. God, I'm only on page 7. This works quite well for a fantasy game, even as is. Experts reveal the secrets of Inca Ice Maiden. Girl was drugged before a ritual sacrifice, say the city scientists. Scientists have revealed how a 13-year-old Inca Ice Maiden was drugged with cocaine and alcohol leading up to her ritual sacrifice 500 years ago. Found in 1999 near a mountain summit on the Chile border with Argentina, close to Volcan. Oh God, I can't pronounce that. Volcan Lulailaco. Please forgive my really bad pronunciation. Anyone from Argentina, if it gets that far. Tests carried out by the team. Published online. Reveal she was given drugs and alcohol in the final months and weeks of her life as part of an Inca Capacocha ritual with chewed coca leaves found still in her mouth. The maiden named after the mountain where she was found was buried just below the summit. 2 other younger children, a 6-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy, were also found in separate graves near her. The rest of it on the analytical level about hair growing around 1 centimetre a month, once formed, doesn't undergo any further alterations. It's basically about how cocaine and alcohol leave markers in your hair, which is how they've identified that she was drugged and alcoholised. Yeah, in a fantasy game, you could have it where this is something that's going on in a town, somebody's getting drugged up for a ritual sacrifice, or a wizard has captured children to sacrifice. Or even better, it could literally be a case that there has been found by locals in whatever your fantasy setting is. If you go into an area that's got either peat bogs or, again, ice, if you go into a mountainous region, this individual could have been found with these other children. Maybe through erosion of some kind, it's revealed the bodies. Some farmers, some passing traders discovered the bodies, brought them back to town, still very cold to touch, clearly, from being high up. Maybe they're thawing out. And, yeah, local apothecary, cleric, whatever, might recognise parts of this ritual, or from where they were, know what they were there for. Maybe they need to be taken straight back before it undoes some great nasty portal into another world. Or perhaps to keep the gods calm, whether or not those gods care. Perhaps they were put up there not so much as a sacrifice, but to prevent them rising again. Maybe they are members of the undead, and now they've been left to thaw, they may come back into unlife. Yeah, inspiration can be found anywhere. You don't have to buy a newspaper. I did it because I've not bought one for a while. And it's what my idea, you know, I just got the random idea. Need to do some vids on roleplay. Inspiring roleplay. What do you do? If you're stuck, go do this. Back to nature watermark. Right, this is local stuff. Horses grass death. Owner wants to raise awareness of a little known sickness which can be fatal. A devastated horse owner in Bradford has vowed to raise awareness of a mysterious condition which killed her 5-year-old horse in 36 hours. Whoa. The Lady of Thornton lost her horse Maggie to the little known illness grass sickness, which paralyses the gut and rapidly becomes fatal. The cause of the illness is not known, but occurs almost exclusively to horses with access to grass. It is a mysterious condition, no one knows what causes it. I'd assume eating the grass, they don't have the right enzymes to digest it properly, or perhaps fertilisers or whatever else on the grass triggers it. Not exactly a typical story for most of your city-based World of Darkness games, but if you've got something to do with werewolf or just anything set in a more rural location, the whole reason this disease might be unknown causes is it could be supernatural. Again, it could be supernatural in a fantasy setting, it could be natural in a fantasy setting. It could be a case of simple curse from a local witch or passing through gypsy to do with some ill will done towards her, and this is her revenge. Perhaps every 10 years or so this mysterious thing affects them. Let's cut by half. Scrapyard Blaze probe continues. Oh, that's easy. Scrapyard Blaze. Tongue. Ooh, propane gas cylinders. Lovely. 8 nearby homes had to be evacuated. Did it say when it happened? Nope. It doesn't say what time. Oh, 6 AM. At the moment that's a bit too bright for a vampire thing, but if you set it in autumn, 6 AM, it's still going to be dark. It's just going to be coming to light, admittedly, but it could easily enough be a batch of hunters have just dispatched something by taking advantage of the knowledge that the scrapyard has propane in it and luring in werewolf, vampire, insert great big gribbly nasty here. Hell, maybe it's a Freddy Krueger type thing, but just easily enough could be a batch of hunters cause this blaze. It could be something that ties it. I don't know, how else could you tie it in? Perhaps the character lives in one of those 8 houses and wants to investigate what happened. Then you can go down the supernatural route, go down the gang route, go down to simple children being hoodlums. Hell, if it fits with the other thing from earlier on, you could have children rampantly being nasty people all over your game, and it could be all down to the same thing. Whether that be supernatural or just mundane. And that would be quite a big thing to try and solve. Why are the children in this locality all being very violent and misbehaving? Is this to do with some god deciding to cause havoc amongst the mortal populace? Is this down to vampiric meddlings in society? Which for some reason that particular vampire prefers to have children working for them, whether for some darker reasoning or simply because it causes a lot of havoc. Landmark is returned. A piece of Cullingworth's railway history has returned to the village after several decades. The name board from Cullingworth railway station had lain abandoned following the station's demolition in the 1960s. Perhaps Perhaps this railway sign is some sort of mystical ward that protects the town. Sorry, I don't know, grasping at straws. The reinforced concrete name board was recovered and taken by the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway Preservation Society. Yeah, that's a bizarre one. Two sort following robbery, speeders caught, coffee more. Oh, hang on, that's an idea. Let's go to the court section if I can find it. This being Tuesday, apparently is sports day because the entire middle section of the paper is full of stuff to do with sports and rugby and football and things. Business. What's that? Village enthusiasm about its own app. Media Man creates new site for residents to interact and find out what's happening. Yeah, there's a World of Darkness headline for you. Straight off. Denholm has been thrust into the technological forefront with the launch of a new smartphone app for the village. The new software means residents will be kept up to date with the village events, can access contact details for community groups and ask fellow villagers their opinion on local issues. All by just clicking their phone. So a quick flick through this. I suppose, yeah, on the positive, it could help people get more involved in the community. Once groups tread their own contact things, you can easily enough twist this to be just somebody in the village wanting to track people. See what people are doing, learn. It could be that this individual has been taken by some outsider entity, alien, spirit, god, something that wants to learn more about the area it's in, and if it's taken over somebody who understands technology, then it's probably taken advantage of that. But yeah, like I said, straight off this could be about somebody, something monitoring the local populace, or perhaps this being an article in a newspaper in a modern setting game, perhaps somebody decides to try and take advantage of the fact that there's all these local people posting what they're up to via this one app. Maybe they find a bug in it or a glitch that they can use to hack into it and follow people themselves, so it doesn't even need to be the developer of the actual software that's the one using it for malicious ends. I suppose it could be a magically created device that's put in the centre of a town for people to keep note of, or a series of notice boards in a fantasy setting that are all linked by magical energies, and almost like a touchscreen, almost like a fantasy touchscreen device. Locals go up and either ask the board questions, or there's bits that they can push that, project into their mind, tell them verbally, whatever, different things that are going on. No flats sold. Family notices, deaths of people, births of people. This could be very interesting. Perhaps actually do this for your characters. If somebody dies in a game, maybe relatives put their name in the family notices bit. Perhaps even characters that have a paranoid or otherwise paranormal investigative bent read these regular just as a thing to follow up on who's dying where. Perhaps merely to find out where the funeral is so they can go and keep an eye on things. Kind of along the lines of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They know that somebody died in some sort of supernatural manner, and they want to know where the body's going to be so they can monitor it for a few nights or days or whatever to see if anything happens. Best way of finding out where somebody's going to be buried or interred or cremated. Family notices, but not something I think that a lot of people would think about in game. But, dating. Oh god, this could be fun. Yeah, the dating bit. This would be like vampiric menu, perhaps. Lazy vampire with dominate. Want to get a quick meal? Leave something in the dating ads. People come out, make them forget everything that happens after you've taken your required vitae from them. Let them go. Oh dear. But yeah, I think I've done this for 45 minutes. Yeah, I'll just quickly go through the list. Classified ads. Drop in some interesting items for sale. And in the middle of the classified fantasy setting, you may have again like a board in the middle of town where people are advertising goods or services. Like here we've got forthcoming events, clairvoyance. Some clairvoyant person. Victoria Hall. You know, you could easily enough have a little event like this. Yeah, full of darkness thing. Somebody picks up a newspaper, here you go. There is a clairvoyant. There is lots of bad stuff happening. Players in games where your DM, GM, storyteller doesn't quite know what they're doing. Tell them you want to know what our local events are. You know, if you've got one of those GMs that doesn't quite get into a world thing and is literally, you're going into this dungeon, kill these things, get gold, woo. And you want more than that? Pester them with questions like this and see how they react. They either may just say, we're not playing that kind of game, don't worry about it, it's still fun. I'd happily wander around a game hacking off the heads of goblins every now and again. I mean, long term, I prefer something that's got a bit more to it. But yeah, it's little questions like this that you ask a decent games master, storyteller, where they will react to. Oh, they want to know about stuff that's going on locally, and on the spur of the moment, they need to come up with this. I don't know, I'm going to leave it there because I've been rambling for bloody ages, and that's pretty much the end of the paper. I don't know, you could easily enough meddle around with the stars. Get characters, well not characters, get players to tell you what star sign their characters are, what their birthday is perhaps. I mean, this might be going way too into detail for some of you, but depending on the level of game you're playing, if you get facts like that and you play it right with characters, they're in a coffee shop and they're just sat there doing the usual thing, and you just drop in, make a perception roll, or maybe not even bother with perception roll, maybe just say you overhear somebody walking by you saying, hey, did you read the stars today? And you know, mention some odd occurrence that ties in with that particular character. You know, especially if you've perhaps got a quiet player, somebody who's not vocalising or interacting as much in a game, you could drop a little thing in that their star sign has been mentioned, and something strange, where in the newspaper or in the online, wherever they've read this thing, it mentions that character's name and it tells them to keep an eye out or stay safe, don't go out tonight, anything else. This message could be honest, it could be don't go out tonight because something bad will happen if you do, it could be don't go out tonight, that person's coming to get them. Well, person, thing, entity, the world's going to end for everybody else, you know. But yeah, if you have a quiet player in a group, drop something like that on them so it focuses on them, but doesn't necessarily need to detract from the main plot, if you have a main plot. Yeah, anyway, take care. I'm rambling way too much. I hope some of this might be useful for people if they can handle watching 50 minutes of me ramble like a lunatic. But yeah, take care of yourselves, happy gaming, toodle pip.